Welcome to Couchversations with Dr. Adrienne for the Black Heritage Arts Festival. And I am so thankful and grateful to be a part of this platform and to share with you some of my nuggets of wisdom that I hope will help you to start living your best life. So, one thing about Dr. Adrienne is that at 53 years old, you can't remember everything that you want to say. So sometimes you have to take notes. And so in order to make sure that my thoughts flow as clearly as I'd like for them to ensure that whatever the message is that God sends forth through me is actually received for whoever it is that needs to receive it, I always take notes. So I'm going to start with the notes that I have written down. So in this first part of starting to live your best life, I want to focus on who it is that you are and kind of talk a little bit about how it is that we all come to be who it is that we are, because who it is that we have become is directly influenced by what it is that we've been taught and told. And so for us, having the goal of living our best life, learning to be happy, reaching goals, all these different things that we all are taught to aspire to, we have to know sometimes why it is that we think the way that we think and believe the things that we believe. So I'm going to start with a part about don't wear the mask. And so the first thing that I want to do is I want to define what a mask is. And what 2020 and into 2021 has all taught us is that we are all wearing some masks, but for different reasons because of COVID. But in this case, a mask is a cloth or other material that you wear over your face so that people cannot see who you are, or so that you look like someone or something else. I'm going to give it to you again. A mask is a cloth or other material that you wear over your face so that people cannot see who you are, or so that you look like something or someone else. We often feel pressured to live in a way that it meets the expectations of who and what others say that we should be. Many times chasing dreams that are not our own. Finding true purpose is not about what you do for a profession, but about finding who you are at the core of your being. We often refuse to go deep enough to tackle the things that have emotionally haunted us throughout our lives. We cover things up on the surface, often like applying makeup to hide what we or others might view as imperfections. Covering up things on the surface keeps insecurities lingering underneath the surface, but being brave enough to face up to who we truly are gets us closer to discovering our life's purpose and gets us closer to living as who we are, as opposed to who we want the world to see us as. Or instead of living as you with the bad parts covered up. We must stop obsessing about how others see us. Have you ever been concerned that if people really knew certain things about you, the light you'd really be seen in? This is called the imposter syndrome, the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or legitimate and may be exposed as a fraud. Imposter syndrome can be caused by stigmas and stereotypes, and research suggests that women suffer more from imposter syndrome than men. Now, we all know imposters that simply perpetuate the fraud of their daily living. We live our lives according to societal norms, often causing internal conflict, with you seeing yourself as how society says you should be seen. We often get so caught up in comparing ourselves to those around us that it makes it difficult to figure out who we really are. We attempt to live our lives according to the script that has been authored by our mates, families, teachers, co-workers, and friends. Parents often unknowingly influence children to become who they want them to become, as opposed to guiding them into who they are supposed to become. We enter into careers, relationships, and religions based on the seeds that are planted in us at a young age. We must personally redefine success around who we really are as opposed to who the world says that we should be. Look at your circle. Do you have relationships that are affirming, or do you feel as if you're constantly trying to prove or compare yourself to those around you? Build deeper and more meaningful relationships with people that give you permission to be your true, authentic self, so that you no longer have to have the need to mask who it is that you are. See, when we talk about starting to live our best life, we have to take the mask off, because for a lot of adults, they have walked around for years wearing masks that were handed to them by other people. So people are in relationships that aren't fulfilling or that are unhealthy because they're trying to uphold a standard that was set by family members or by society. People are living inside of dead-end jobs, that they are unhappy with, that they are unfulfilled with, that don't allow them to grow and improve, yet they stay inside of them because society has said that that is a measure of success. We attend colleges and universities when we aren't even interested in furthering our education, because sometimes our parents or society makes us think that if you don't pursue education outside of your high school diploma, that somehow you can't be successful. So all of these things are masks that we often go through life wearing and carrying because we don't have the courage and the strength to release them and to let them go and to truly walk into our purpose of being happy. And so as a psychotherapist here in the Atlanta area, the majority of my practice is made up of couples. And so oftentimes I'll get couples that will come in and everybody is looking to point the finger at the other person. Everybody is looking as the other person being the blame in terms of why they're not happy. And they can't live their best life because they're not happy because this other person is contributing to their unhappiness. And so I often tell people that, I have a happiness wall in my office. And so your happiness is your responsibility. So when we talk about starting to live your best life, number one, you got to take off the mask. You got to stop doing the things that other people feel like you should be doing, that they feel like are the measure of your success, that they feel like will determine whether or not you are accomplished and achieved. You have to be your greatest measuring stick. And so it's not what other people say about you, it's what do you say about yourself. And so, being your best self, living your best life starts with, first of all, you recognizing those areas in your life that you don't consider to be working, not failing, but just not working. And so that you can then say, how much of this is associated with me trying to live my life based on who somebody else says that I should be? So first of all, we got to start by taking off the mask. And then before you can get to being happy, you've got to understand what that means for you. Because what makes one person happy is not what makes another person happy. So when I have couples that come to the couch and they want to point the finger at the other person in terms of why their relationship is not working, and I often hear someone say, well, they don't make me happy anymore after they've been in a long-term relationship. And I will quickly remind them that your happiness is your responsibility. And if you handed your happiness over to someone else, that's your fault. That's not their fault, because everyone is responsible for their own happiness. So I want to share this with you as we talk about starting to live your best life. So we've talked about how do you take off the mask in order to truly understand what your needs are, what your desires are, what your goals are for you. based on who you are and not based on who everybody else has told you throughout your life that you should be. So that's step one. We got to take off that mask. But the next part to starting to live your best life is to understand that you are responsible for your own happiness. So I got to go to my notes again. A happier mind and happier life. How do you define happiness? Happiness doesn't depend on external factors such as material things or other people. When you associate your happiness with external factors, you have no control over the here and now. We tend to associate happiness with moments in time, such as celebrations or triumphs. But what those things have in common is their ability to provide temporary moments of pleasure. And as a result, we tie our happiness to people, places, and things, both in our past and potentially in our future. The more you look for happiness outside of yourself, the less happy you will be. Life is not perfect, and any given day can bring illness, heartache, loss, disappointments, and any number of anxiety-producing situations. We often choose to engage in activities that take us out of the present when we encounter such challenges, which takes us out of the present, which is a mistake, as a form of escape, because happiness can only be found in the present. When your mind is not focused on the present, you're either ruminating on the past or fantasizing about the future. Very common because we fantasize about what we perceive as perfect people, places, and things. We must remember that the experience of life takes place in the present. No matter how strongly we believe that the key to your happiness lies within another person, no mate, child, friend, job, or situation will ever be able to provide you with sustained happiness. That peace of mind can only be acquired by going inward and finding it within yourself. We often confuse pleasure with happiness. Pleasure is a fleeting sensation that is time specific and limited. There's nothing wrong with pleasure as long as you remember that life will always be balanced by sensations of pain and discomfort. Happiness, on the other hand, can be sustained and experienced separately from changing circumstances in our lives. Happiness can be stable when learned to live in the moment. Even when there are moments of pain and discomfort, we learn to remain content in life. We must stay present and tune into feelings instead of running away from them. If you're lonely, instead of running and turning on the TV to fill the void, allow yourself the opportunity to embrace your human feelings and not condemn them. We must assess when we are in situations, have expectations of guaranteed satisfaction, because guaranteed satisfaction is essentially a guarantee that if not satisfied with a product or service, we can refund it. Accepting situations, and that's people, places, and things, means that may fulfill a need that is acceptable, though not outstanding or perfect. We often look for the perfect beat to our happiness in external forces outside of ourselves. Having a happier mind will result in you living a happier life. So how do you define happiness? Happiness doesn't depend on external factors, such as material things or other people. And when you associate your happiness with external factors, you have no control over the here and now. So in order to live your best life, we talked about pulling the mask off. We talked about not living up to other people's standards and their definitions of success in your life. So now we're shifting to what makes you happy, because A lot of times, the reason we are unhappy is because we hand over the responsibility of our happiness to other people. We look to other people, places, and things to make us happy, or we aspire for a happy that has been defined by society or people in our family. If you get married, you'll be happy. If you have a certain job, you'll be happy. If you have a certain amount of money in the bank, you'll be happy. But if those are not things that personally are things that you aspire to have in your life, they're not the formula for your happiness. And so your happiness has to start with you. You are the person that you spend the most time with in a 24-hour period. And so what it is that you tell yourself, what it is that you think and feel and believe is what you concentrate on. It is what grows in your life. And so you have to stop living based on who somebody else said that you're supposed to be. And you have to start living based on who it is that you really are. And so for a lot of people, for many, many years, they go through life attempting to please everybody else. And then they can't find themselves inside of their own life's journey because they've spent so much time wearing a mask, filling their life with things and people that other people say they should have inside of their lives. And then they get to a point where they realize, I'm not happy. I'm not living my best life because the things and the people and the places that I am experiencing don't fulfill me. They are not a part of my happiness. Now, that's not to say that other people can't cause you to be unhappy. They absolutely can. After all, we're human. But it's our responsibility to make sure that even in the midst of our daily living, that every single day we are assessing the people that bring joy into our lives and those people who bring strife into our lives. Who are the people that add value to you? Who are the people who are subtracting from you? And so you don't have to wait 365 days when you have set a resolution to do something new to decide who it is that has to exit your life and who gets to stay in your life. Because a big part of happiness is who adds value to you and who it is that subtracts from you. So, in order to start living your best life, we're going to take off the mask. That's number one. We are going to stop aspiring to meet a success that's based on somebody else's definition of success instead of our definition of success. That's number one. But the second thing is you're going to start to define happiness for yourself. And so what makes somebody else happy does not have to be what makes you happy. I can remember when I was growing up in Tuskegee, Alabama, my grandmother taught all the girls to cook and clean and to be quite domesticated and to take care of men, a husband. And she had my first cousins and I thinking that if we were not married by 25, that we were going to be old maids. And that thought process came out of her upbringing. So the generation that she was raised in. And so as a result, my cousins and I kind of adopted that belief system that, well, if I'm not married by 25 and if I don't find my spouse while I'm in college, I will probably be an old maid. I will spend my years as a spinster by myself. And so we went to college with the thought process that this is where you meet your husband. And so as a result of that thinking, the ideas that, these newer generations have about studying abroad and traveling and all this different stuff was just not something that was a concept for me, because my grandmother had taught us that a part of the happiness formula is You go to college, you get a husband, and you live out your days being married as if there was nothing else to life. And so we have to all look at the mask that we've been carrying. And the mask that we carry is based on the things that we are taught and told that influence how we think. So we've talked about the mask. We've talked about the mask. We've talked about happiness, and happiness not being the responsibility of any person, place, or thing in your life, and it being your responsibility every single day to seek happiness for yourself based on who it is that you are and not based on who it is that someone told you you're supposed to be. And so, how do we get to that? How do we take the mask off, identify our happy so that we can start to live our best lives? Well, it starts with our thinking. So, everything that is a part of your thought process becomes a part of your behavior. And so our thoughts guide our actions, and everything that we allow to be a part of our thoughts controls every single thing that is a part of our life. And so many of the thoughts that you have were placed there by other people. That's why you got on a mask. Many of the times when you say that you're not happy, it's because you are trying to measure happiness based on what somebody else has taught you to think. So I want to talk for just a moment about the journey to happy, how to get there and stay there. And so I've already talked about the fact that as a psychotherapist, I get many people who come to the couch and they talk about how inside of a relationship, this other person's behavior is now detracting from their happiness. So, of course, I took notes. As a result of countless times that I've heard individuals, both in my personal and professional daily life, look to some situation, circumstance, or person as the blame or celebration for their current state of happy, I created a happy wall in my office. Quotes of a constant visual reminder to be used on the journey to happy. My favorite, which people in my life hear me say daily, is happiness is a choice. Always has been, always will be. Followed by my affirmation, and I choose happy. Of course, it is human nature to allow people and circumstances that are not pleasing to us to have a negative influence on how we think, feel, and often behave. We've all probably heard the cliche, bad things really can happen to good people. But it's not what happens to us that derails our happy. It's our response to it. At some point, we all encounter circumstances, situations, people, and environments that, given the option, we would avoid like a plague. But as life reminds us almost daily, there are very few situations and no other people that we have control over. Frustration arises not because someone did something or said something that made us feel a certain way, but rather because we had no real control of it. It being done or said. The moment that we all accept that we can only control the things within our control, which does not include the words, thoughts, and behaviors of others, we have taken the first real step on the journey to happy. Dr. Richard Carlson, author of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, details 5 principles for keeping life in perspective in the book entitled, You Can Be Happy No Matter What. So here are some thoughts to ponder. Do your problems prevent you from enjoying your life? Are you consumed with concerns and hopes that someday things will get better? Are you content with your life or constantly struggling to fill your life with things, people, and stuff to make life better? Do you live your life in a way that evidences that your happiness and contentment are independent from your circumstances? The principles of thought, moods, separate realities, feelings, and the present moment, when understood, have the ability to equip us with the necessary tools to use each time that we encounter the circumstances, situations, people, or environments that threaten our happiness. So the principle of thought, understanding the way that thoughts are formed and influenced is critical to understanding the relationship between your thoughts and feelings and the impact on your behavior. Every negative or positive feeling is a direct result of thought. We are the originators of our own thoughts. Thoughts come from us, and it is not something done to us. What we think determines the way we see things. The father of American psychology, William Jones, once said, "Thinking is the grand originator of our experience." Every perception and experience in life is based on thought. Your thoughts, not your circumstances, determine how you feel. We have command over our thoughts, and a thought is just a thought, not reality. We must make the decision not to follow what others say to us or what we say to ourselves to become our reality. We often become the victim of thoughts. When something comes to mind, recognize it as the passing thought that it is. It doesn't mean that we can't or shouldn't consider our act on the thought, but it does mean that we have the option. The quality of our lives will not be determined by what we think about, but rather the relationship to our thinking, the way we manufacture thoughts and respond to them. Our past experiences and memories of the past accumulate throughout our lifetimes and encourage us to see things the same way. We react negatively or positively to the same situations or circumstances over and over, interpreting our current experiences in life as we have in the past. Our thoughts create our reality. The conditions and circumstances of our lives are directly impacted by how we think of them. It's not what you experience, but how you think of the experience that will determine how successfully you maneuver through it. Positive and negative thoughts are contagious. Positive thinking is more likely to yield feelings of optimism, happiness, and success. Negative thinking is more likely to yield feelings of dissatisfaction, unhappiness, and failure. So start living your best life. How do we do that? Well, it starts with taking off the mask. And that mask is all the stuff that has been passed down to you from people that you admired and respected, sometimes parents, teachers, other relatives who have influenced and shaped who they thought you should become, which has become a part of your thinking. And so you're walking around wearing a mask. You're in relationships you don't want to be in or that aren't healthy. You're on jobs that aren't fulfilling or a part of your life's purpose. You're going places and doing stuff that you don't even want to do because other people think that you should. You've defined happiness outside of you, and every time something doesn't go right from another person or a place that you've gone, you go into this space of feeling like you don't have control over your ability to be happy. And then it's what you're thinking about. Every thought that you have, whether it's a positive thought or a negative thought, shapes your life. And so in order to learn how to truly start to live in your best life, you've got to think about those things that you are allowing to sit inside of your brain, those thoughts that you allow to continue to swim around and to become a part of your life. Every time that you have a negative thought, you have to stop that negative thinking, and you've got to replace that negative thought with some positive things that are going on in your life. Because for all of us, what we concentrate on is what we grow. And so you can't want light and love to come into your life if you are putting darkness out into the world. And so if you truly want to get to living your best life, it starts with what you're thinking, what you are allowing to be a part of your spirit, your soul, and your mind and your body every single day. And that's the people, places, and things, because oftentimes the people that we allow to sit on our front row are not healthy for us. And so if you want to really look at how you're thinking and how your thinking is being shaped, look at the people that you have allowed to stay a part of your personal life's journey. And so if you want to get to doing something different and living your best life, not based on who other people say that you are, but based on who it is that you know that you are, then you got to take off the mask. You got to be okay with revealing and unveiling your true, authentic, best self, and recognize that anybody who can't accept that person is probably not somebody that's supposed to be a part of your journey. And then you just got to stop allowing other people to be in control of your belief that you are happy or unhappy. You can choose happiness every single day, despite what goes on in your life. We all go through grief. We all go through loss. And I think that what COVID-19 has taught us through 2020 on into 2021 is that we don't have as much control over this world as we thought we had. But that does not prevent you from living a life of happiness, to be content in the moment, and to surround yourself with people, places, and things that are a part of making you your best self. So there it is. Couchversations with Dr. Adrienne. Start living your best life, part 1. I invite you to come back and join me for part 2, where I will be discussing how to not only set some goals, but how to achieve the goals that you set. Because sometimes some of these same things that I've talked about today, wearing masks, letting other people define your happiness, and not controlling negative thoughts when you're having them, are the exact same things that keep us from reaching our goals. So please come back and join me. And again, I am so excited to be a part of the Black Heritage Arts Festival 2021 virtual conference.